Hey guys, this is Production Music Live. I'm Francois and today we are going to check this project of Mike Posner, I Took a Pill in Ibiza, Seeb remix, and we are going to remake the style of that. I prepared this remake with different MIDI information here. We're going to go through that in a minute. But in this part, I'm going to quickly show you the chords that are being used in the original if you're interested. So I'm going into the piano that's playing in the background and I'm going to put it on solo. This is more or less what they're playing in their song, and we can quickly figure out the chords here. We have a G minor and we're playing it one octave higher again, followed by an F major, here, 3 semitones, 2 semitones, major chord. If you want to learn a bit more about chords, you can check out our newly made course on harmony and chord progressions, where we are going to explain how this works and how you come up with interesting chords. And the next chord down here is it's a D sharp major 7th chord, because we have this major down here. And there's our 7th. And we are playing the basic major chord on top again. So we have this nice and full chord. And the final two chords are a simple A sharp major chord with an added 2 note here. Those added tone chords always sound really nice. And then we are closing with an F major 6 with the root note A. So if we play everything together, and we can actually also take a look at the plugs up here. Our bass obviously plays the bass notes for those chords. We have G, F, D sharp, A sharp, and A. And if we go down to those vocal bits, I was playing around with a couple of vocal samples. I think what they did in the original is they took a part of Mike Posner actually singing something with some word with an A inside, and then they used that sample for the vocals. But it's really hard to take those vocals out of the original because there's no real a cappella version, or at least I couldn't find one. So I tried to use another A type of sung sound and some other vocal sample on top. So this is how you could do it. We're just playing this pattern. And then we are just using the simpler devices from Ableton and we are putting on the glide mode, especially on this sound here. Need a bit of portamento and a bit of portamento time up here. And an overlap in the notes to get this glidey effect. If we quickly play that together with one of those chords, it's probably getting a bit more obvious. Let's do this again. And here, they're not really playing too much in the original, they're singing. This is when the vocal kicks back in this back part. So this is basically how you would do this original MIDI setup. And now we're going to have a look at the complete remake style here with a couple of different MIDIs. I'm going to quickly play it in. So let's get a quick overview of this project. We have our kicks and drum elements up here below the sidechain. And we have more hi-hats and shaker loops and shaker sounds down here and a couple of bongos and also clap effects. And then we go on and we have our bass sounds here, followed by the chords and plucks, a couple of pipes and bells. Then we have piano, arpeggio and background pad. And then we are using this part down here for our lead vocals. And below that we have a couple of plucky top sounds. So if we pick out this drop part here first and we try to build it up in front, in this front part, we can start with our kick and sidechain. I'm quickly going to copy those tracks. And we are basically starting with a simpler device and we are putting in one of our premium kicks. I really like this one. And so I plug this in here. Bit of a cut in the boxy frequencies. And then we are going on. We have a crash sound here. So this crash sample. I have a big reverb on my second send return channel here. We are sending it to the crash channel and it's opened up quite a bit. It's 7 seconds long and it's a big sized reverb. So this is where you get this depth into your sample. If I were to turn this off, still have the delay effect. So you probably know about this, so we can go on and take the snip sample, which is quite important here. This one, it's out of the claps up here, 29. Yeah, and the important thing here is we are at position 1.4. We are not playing the first clap position. We are playing this one with the clap and the second one with the snip. And you might be wondering why are you doing all this outside of the drum rack? Well, I want to be able to move those tracks around with the track delay later, and drum racks don't allow for that. So I feel there's a bit more overview if you work like this and you can quickly adjust those two clap sounds. For example, that one has to play 4 milliseconds after the actual positions and that one a bit earlier. So it's nice to adjust those clap sounds, for example, with track delay. And you see a bit of processing here on almost all the drum and hi-hat sounds, I'm using a bit of those send reverb effects. And then we have a chorus, a low cut, cutting off some of the frequencies that are not being used. That's important for our mixing stage later, so we don't have too many frequencies interfering. And I made this quick sample here. It's a reversed white noise, and I'm playing that one right in front of the second clap. So we have this swoop, and it's a bit earlier. I put it in a bit earlier. So this actual overlap is not really happening. So we are playing it earlier. We are playing it basically 14 milliseconds earlier. So if we look down here, that's 65 and that's 70. So basically we're playing it this much earlier. So we are not really interfering anymore. That's the cool thing about the track delay function. It's really, really handy. Okay, so our next element in the drop would be the two white noises. Actually, you could only use one, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of use two here, and they're made with massive, just white noise in massive, and well, deactivate all the other oscillators, and I don't know, and pan position on the voicing is up a bit into stereo. And if we check out the compressor, it's sidechain to our sidechain channel, so we have this pumping effect. And we're rolling off some frequencies here already, putting on the vinyl distortion. So this is always a nice effect to get your sound a bit more natural. If you go into the vinyl distortion and in the audio effects and you select this preset and move up the lower part, a bit mid-side EQing, it's not that important here. So it's a white noise. So you put a low cut and then you put a utility, automating your volume, and that's about it. So same thing with the second one. That one is also being volume automated. It swooshes up and down during the playback. And let's put in those hand, drum, and vocal haze here. They're quite important to the feel. So we have two sounds. We have this hand drum with a delay 4 to 6 and low cut on the send channel. And we're at the last two 16th notes. And we're combining that sound with this hey vocal shot. And I put a heavy chorus on top of that one. So that's a cool sound here. Really, really great feel inside of the playback if we quickly play that. All right, let's take the bass and put it in there. I'm copying the MIDI pattern here, and we have the sub bass. It's a massive sound as well. All the sounds in here are made by Massive or designed with Ableton Live elements. No third-party plugins other than Massive used. And if I open this up, it's basically a bass sound out of our Tropical House preset pack. Check the description for that one. I think all these sounds in here are more or less out of the Tropical House Volume 2 pack, and we are using the sine wave down here, a bit of a saw wave, 1 octave higher to get a bit of frequency range activated around here with a saw wave. So we also hear our sub bass on laptop and smartphone speakers. and also a tube on top to enhance the sound. So this is our pattern, sidechaining it to the sidechain channel as well. And going on, we also use this mid bass, even another one for smartphone speakers. It's playing up higher. So in those frequencies here. So also for mixing reasons, I took off all the low end on this sound because the low end in the lower frequency is already covered by the sub bass. If you look at this pattern, we don't need to put in more here. So made sure to cut off all those frequencies on the other sounds to avoid piling up a lot of signal in those lower frequencies, because that is going to be the number one reason to mess up your mix. Actually, Tom and I were just finishing a course about mixing in Ableton for mostly electronic music, and by the time you watch this, it might be already finished, so check the description for that course. And if we go on, we can select this plug sound here. Okay, that one is not the number one sound I wanted to talk about. Let's go into this one first, and then we combine those plug sounds. And we take a later one where we have the filters open up. So this is this typical pop music moody signature sound here. I really like this sound, and it's been used so many times already, and you can see the chords again here, and we have this plucky. This plucky structure is quite similar to the Major Lazer lean on plugs, and we're also rolling off low end here. We're putting in a bit of delay and a sidechain, and our massive sound is again KS plug out of our Tropical House pack. And well, stop your screen if you want to copy this patch, but it's basically the needle, this saw wave, and a bit of the groan, and some phase modulation in there as well on our third oscillator. Six voices, and well, obviously we need a plucky envelope, so a short one. So you can imagine if you use this sound on another track, on an own new style, you could always open up at the end of your 8 bars or 16 bars and like make it drop into the next part, something like. Something like that. Probably heard that before already. Combined with another plug sound. It's a bit more to the left and right. It sounds a bit like a guitar. That's what I like about this sound. We have this B-pulse wave table. That one has a nice sound. Yeah, and also we're playing the same chords. So, and now you see the reason why I put in this next sound here, this upper sound, is to get some upper harmonics into those plug sounds. So you see I cut off the low stuff here, and I also cut the low mids in the middle in this mid-side EQ. This one is on stereo mode, this one is on mid-side mode. I use the square wave. Exactly. So this is a quickly designed preset just for this purpose here. So we have a square wave and we have the chrome wave table, and those two combined with a bit of a metal noise. So if we just play the squared saw wave and we put in 4 voices and pan it, here you can see how important this knob and the pan position actually is. We're also putting in the low pass 4 filter, opening up the resonance, and this envelope controls the cutoff. So you can play around with that as well. I'm unmuting it for now. And the second envelope controls this pitch, but I actually took it off. So let's put the chrome back in here and the metal noise. And the parabolic shaper oftentimes is handy to get that crisp up there in the sound. So that was already a nice session of sound design here up to this point. So, and then for a bit more organic feel, I put in a couple of pipes and bell sounds. They're not really necessary, but they add a bit into the feel as well. And if you have those hand slap, pipe elbow 4 packs in your Ableton, so where is that from? Hand slap sound objects. And if you have those bells, that's a mallet sound. With a cover mallet. It's also from the Sound Objects Light pack. So if you use Ableton Live Suite, you have those packs coming with your version of Suite. And if you don't have that, I actually made copied simpler devices here and put in the sounds, the copied version of the sounds. Let's compare the pipe sounds quickly. So that would work in case you don't have the pack. And well, what happened to this sound? It's just this pipey, woody kind of plucky sound in there as well, rolling off some low end, a bit of a chorus to widen the sound. Chorus always takes a bit of attack out of the sound, which is nice here. Then we are warming up the highs with our saturator. Warm up highs, it's that one. And then the typical mid-side mixing, that's always pre-step for the mixing stage. So we are not going to use this sound here in our mid panorama. So I'm rolling this off and I'm moving it a bit to the sides. A bit of delay in there, utility controlling the overall volume and sidechain. And then you can see I put the track delay on 12 milliseconds because I don't want them to play all at the same time. It sounds more organic if you let some of them play a bit earlier and some a bit late. So basically the same thing happened with those bells. Just put them in for the feel. They're not really a driving factor here. Sometimes it's quite funny if you prepare something for your mix down and then later you listen to the sound in solo, it sounds really crappy, but it wouldn't make any sense to play that bell sound on its own. But if you put it at the right position in your mix and you have it relate to the other elements in the mix, it actually makes a lot of sense to fill that gap in there. So this is always an important step. It doesn't really necessarily mean you have a good mix if every single sound is perfectly designed as you like it by soloing the track and turning your knobs until you love the sound. If you combine them with other sounds, they will most probably interfere in very important frequency ranges and you mess up your mix later. So this is why sometimes you have those crappy little sounding elements in there, or they don't sound that good and you're like, why don't we just leave them out there? So this is a simple explanation for what happened here. And if I copy the piano pattern, we have this grand piano from our grand piano pack, the stretch one. And well, we're rolling off a couple of frequencies here, not too much going on, and a filter because we are using the higher frequencies for other sounds. And again, if you like to come up with chords like that and you have no idea how to do that, we put together a course explaining everything you need to know about chords and chord progressions and harmony and those types of voicings. So check the description for that one. And you see I'm keeping that one in the background, and also to put in a bit more natural feel, I'm delaying the piano. The piano is always a bit late compared to the other elements. By the way, we can quickly make an on-off with our mastering chain. So actually I should have done that without the mastering chain on, but that one is not heavily used here. So we can quickly turn it off. It's our simple Ableton only mastering chain, and I only use this EQ and this punch compressor, the catch peaks compressor, and a bit of the sustain compressor. And you see they're not heavily working here. So a final touch is EQ. We have a tutorial on setting up this mastering chain. Just check our channel and put in mastering chain, and then you'll find that tutorial. So if I put this off, it's basically just putting it a bit higher in the amplitude and volume and catching a couple of peaks, but it's not doing too much here, so don't worry about that. There's a difference if you play them right after one another, but so the perception of volume is always quite deceptive. Things can easily sound better at higher volume. And you might be wondering, okay, so what is this up here? That's just our master effect rack, because we are using this filter at a couple of parts. So just to filter up the low frequencies and get this DJing club effect in there. If I put this one. If I were to turn those knobs up right during playing back the track. Let's play a drop or something. I actually created that effect for DJing with live, for those DJing sessions, but sometimes I'm also using them in tracks. So this is basically a fade to gray is a reverb combined with a delay effect. Yeah, so what else is in here? We have this arpeggio playing a nice little melody in the background. You can always put something like that in the background to enhance and enrich your sound and make the overall experience of your track sound more full and more elevated. So this background pad here combines with the piano. Same chords, and we just use that one mostly in our break parts. Yeah, and you can also see how I'm automating the filter on top of it, because I don't want it opened up during the break parts. Get this nice little ambience with the filter down. So how do I get this pad? I use a sine wave and then combine it with a saw wave and put on a low pass filter. Since it's not the most important element, I'm going to hop to the next part and we're going to check out those vocals here. So I'm copying both of those tracks, or all three of them, and we're going to look at this in a bit more detail. Again, it would be great to have the original source vocal here, but it's hard to get that one. So I'm trying it with this one. And we're going to put off the effect chain for a second. I'm grouping them now. And now I'm turning off the group. I actually took this out of the original Mike Posner, I Took a Pill in Ibiza. Right at the end of the song, there's just a part where he's singing and a couple of guitar strums are going on, but there's no beats or something interfering, so you get quite a clean version of the vocal, but there's a bit of guitar harmonics below, and that's what you hear down here as well. So you have this lower element below the vocal. Again, we are playing those short notes here. And the sample is already cut if I were to put the start at the beginning. So it really depends on where you're sitting in your sample. I'm going back. I'm also looping the sample here with the loop function, and then I'm putting up the loop to 100%. The length is quite short, and I'm putting up the fades, so that determines how sharp it's going to loop this one. I want it less sharp, so and also with a bit of attack. And then you see I detuned it and transposed it a bit, and I put on the portamento and the spreader. So without the spreader, it's more in the center. And with the spreader up, we are moving it to the side. Okay, and now this looks like a crazy effect chain, but it's just a sound showing the sound design process here. So I'll try to fix it step by step into the direction that sounds good in the mix or sounds good enough. And we have a couple of EQs here. So this is not the best practice. It's just showing the workflow. So you cut something out of there and then you move on and then you cut even more and you realize, okay, we have resonances going on here, and then you go on and on. Okay, so the first element is cutting off the lower parts here and focuses a bit on this sound. Sidechain compressor. And the next one is the erosion. So if you go to your audio effects and you put in erosion, because the original vocal sample in the remix has some sort of erosion on top. I'm not sure if they did that with Ableton, but a good approach to getting closer to it is using this wide and dirty preset from the erosion and putting the amount to around 15. So if I were to put this out, actually we need to cut off all these effects behind. So you're getting this crisp in there. If I put up the amount, it's getting more obvious even. Okay, and another compressor. Squeezing the sound together a bit more so we don't have this sharp and harsh vocal. Transient, and this one is just for controlling reasons. So we move on to the next element and we are taking off some resonances here. And also those vocal bits around, well, 300, or where are we here? Yeah, 400 to 200, somewhere in this region. This is a bit piling up with the plug sounds, so we take that out as well. Let's listen to this one in solo mode. That's a bit harsh here, so I'm taking this off. And you don't really have to do the same thing. It's really a sound design process, and it just shows the steps that were necessary to get the sound where it sits right now. So this is really heavy here. Mid-side EQ. And the snores is another erosion. And then we can skip this rectifier. I'm just going to show you. So let's put in saturator, and this rectifier preset also can help you enhance your sound if you put that in. But you probably want to do that on an electronic guitar or something. If we go on now, we can see a bit more adjustments in the EQ, and finally, we're trying to get rid of a lot of resonant stuff. Oh, thank God we got these out. It's really messy in the mix later. And then we have a simple delay here. So with this vocal effect chain, I'm not suggesting that you do anything like that. It just shows you how crazy it sometimes goes if you don't have the right sample and you need to get a sample sound a bit more like something totally different. So this is what happens. You need to manipulate your sound and work your way through all those effects, and it's never going to be as good as working with a better sample. So this is just a heads up maybe, and shows you what you can do, but also what the downsides of this type of work are. And you're also getting quite a CPU heavy chain here. So if I'm going to show you this higher vocal here, we can see I used a different sample and can actually delete those effects. They're not being used. And we have another low cut here and just a bit of EQing out some resonances of this sound. And chorus behind and a bit of a simple delay. So let's listen to the initial sound by doing the same thing again and putting this effect chain into a group and deactivating the group. So a bit of a glide here. We have this overlap in the notes, so a little bit of an overlap here, there and there. That's what's getting the glide in here. We are starting a bit later and we are putting quite some attack on here, so we have a fluent move in this looped sample. You can actually see how it's triggering the loop. So that one is a bit easier. We are just putting in a bit of compression. That's actually sidechain compression, but we have more compression here. We are getting rid of a bit of the dynamics. And the low cut leaves room for our bass frequencies. And as I said, this EQ gets rid of a lot of resonances. So for example, this one. That one could get nasty if played out too loud. And a bit of a chorus on top. Well, actually a lot of chorus. So it doesn't sound like one single voice. It sounds a bit like a combined effort of several singing voices and a bit of a simple delay. And on our group, we're just catching some peaks, putting in a bit more sidechain, and catching a couple of resonances in the sum of those sounds. And that one here is just playing the same note here and triggering this additional element. It's not really that important, so I'm going to skip this for now. And let's play everything together. Okay, and let's quickly take a look at this hi-hat section here, because we haven't talked about those hi-hats here, and I'm quickly going to cover them for this tutorial to be quite complete. So this shaker is important. It's our offbeat hi-hat position 1.13, and we are playing this nice shaker sample out of Deep Premium again. So Perk Dry 58. This one, bit of chorus and a lot of processing with the EQ. And again, the send reverb from our drums reverb, the long one. That one is almost on every drum sound somewhere in there. Okay, and we have a couple of short hi-hats in here. They're not the most important elements, but I'm quickly going to show them anyway. So we have this pattern here. You can stop your screen and copy it if you're interested. I'm quickly going to play what it's doing in single. And I'm going to play this one as well. It's almost the same pattern, just missing the last few notes. And this one is another offbeat hi-hat here. And what's especially important to this tropical kind of groove here is the claves. Playing together with the claps. and those other shakers here and a reverse shaker. So we have this late shaker. It's always one position late after the first offbeat hi-hat shaker hit. We play them together. So that one is really important to the groove here. And if we play it together with this reversed shaker, that's just a recorded shaker sample reversed with audio. And this is how you get your tropical feel going, together with the kick, snip and claps. You hear that in a lot of Kygo tracks as well, and in other tropical house tracks, and also in this Catch Release, Matt Simmons. Really cool drumming. And well, the last bits that are missing now are those bongos. Can be quickly covered. Just two bongo loops, one playing left and the other one on the right. Yeah, and I made those two with, well, I'm actually not sure. I could be use a couple of those bongos we have in D Premium here. Just put in a couple of bongos. Always sounds nice in this summer kind of groove. Okay, and we have those claves on top playing together with this massive plug sound. And I used this frozen clave sample here, and I tuned it, as you can see, I tuned it exactly to the sound of this massive track here, or to the notes of that one. And you see I just used the same patch that I created for the plugs up there. It's a square wave combined with a chrome wave here and a bit of a metal noise. But in this part we are just using really a couple of bits. We are putting this envelope to this second low pass filter here, and we are just using those tiny bits. Because if we put up the level of the attack now, it's getting very, very aggressive. Okay, quickly talk about the structure of the arrangement. We're basically copying the structure of the underlying original track, but we don't have the vocals, so I'm skipping a couple of those start parts. We're starting without many of those hi-hats and shakers, just with the snip and the reverse clap. And the down-filtered versions of our plug sounds. So if we look at the auto filters here, this is where it's getting moody. And then we are opening up the filters, our first build-up with bongos and hi-hats, and a bit of reversed white noise and reversed samples here with the crashes. Our filter on the master track, the one I showed you before, it's always been opened up at the end of every 8 bars. So we get this flow feeling inside of there, like a wave coming back and forth. And yeah, we put in all the hi-hats, everything we got for this main part here. And then we have a break part. And basically you can repeat the thing afterwards if you play this tropical build drop and maybe 2 times of those drops. Behind here you have a 3-minute pop song and you can sing your own vocals on top of it. And well, I think we're through with the tutorial, more or less. There's also a playback video for this entire project. You can check the link in the description. You can also purchase the project file for Ableton. Check the description for our drum samples and preset packs. The preset pack used in here is Massive Presets for Tropical House Volume 2 on our website. And also check our website for those courses I talked about. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Subscribe to our channel and I hope to see you next time.